So, some of the pros that we've had since we've moved back. Well, the slower pace of life's been a bonus. We've had things like so much shorter commutes than we used to when we're back in Sydney.
Yes, 12 minutes is a long one now.
Yeah. Google tells me 9.
Hi, we're Carly and James Hopgood.
We made a sea change or a tree change back in 2017. So some of it went really well, was really good. Some of it was quite hard. And so what we thought we'd do is talk through some of the pros and cons of that experience that we went through. So Carly, how about you talk about some of the, we'll start with the negative ones first, I guess, and talk through some of the bad things that we experienced.
When I first got here, I know that one of the things I struggled with was the lack of services, a variety of services available. So, for example, it was quite hard to say, find a really good yoga instructor
Or a music teacher for the kids.
or a music teacher for the kids, or find shops that I really liked for the clothing and that kind of thing. There was just less variety in the services that we could find.
Yeah, you weren't really sport for choice.
No.
Like we were.
You could definitely get all of the basics and get everything you needed,
Oh,
but
yeah, sure.
it was just a bit of an adjustment coming from Sydney in that way. So when we moved here initially, that lack of variety in the services available wasn't really an issue for our boys. They were only 2 and 4.
Yeah, and started school.
And it didn't really matter. But now that they're a bit older, I can see that there are some times that I think, if we were in a metropolitan setting, they might have a few more opportunities for joining the local chess club or a drama group or something. There's fewer of those types of groups and fewer of those different people around for them to be friends with. Along that same vein, the area that we've moved to, being in the regions, doesn't have a huge cultural diversity. And coming from a place like Sydney, which is very culturally diverse, I do wonder what impact living on such a homogenous culture is going to have on the boys. So one of the things that we have considered is that we need to travel more so that they can have a broader experience of the world and of life, not just regional New Zealand. But of course...
Yeah, that's one of the things that's, I guess, a difficulty of living in the provinces, though, is you're so much further away from
the international airports. Yeah. So that always adds that extra bit of travel and that extra bit of cost and time to any trip that you want to do. So that's always something to factor in.
Yeah, it can take you a couple of days just to get to your destination.
That's right. And it's also tricky because we live further away from my family. So we live
close to mine.
Close to James, which is great. That's a pro. Having grandparents around is a pro. But having my parents and my family in Australia was particularly hard at times like COVID. So particularly hard when we couldn't travel. Particularly hard when there were a couple of years there where we couldn't see any family. So that's always one of the slight challenges with moving away from all your family and friends. And the last challenge hasn't really been a challenge for us, but I know that it has been for other people in our situation at times. And that is, if you sell up and move out, it's very, very hard to get back in to a property market, say, like Sydney, like Auckland.
Yeah, your capital gains sometimes are just nowhere near as much as what you get in the cities.
In the regional areas. So it hasn't been an issue for us because we have no intention of moving back. But if you did move and then find, oh, wait a second, this isn't quite for us, then depending on how long that took you to figure that out, it could be quite a challenge to get back into a metropolitan type real estate market. So that's always something to consider. We did sell up in Sydney and it wasn't an option for us to keep something in Sydney and to buy here.
No.
And it's worked out really well for us, but always weigh up what your options are, I would recommend.
Totally. So, some of the pros that we've had since we've moved back. Well, the slower pace of life's been a bonus. We've had things like so much shorter commutes than we used to when we're back in Sydney.
Yes, 12 minutes is a long one now.
Yeah. Google tells me 9. So yes, we have a much better lifestyle than we had in Sydney. We've got a much bigger yard for the kids to run around. House is a lot bigger than what we could have afforded in Sydney as well.
Close to good schools too, which was good.
Yep. And they can walk to school. But we've also, we go to an event, we're not sitting in traffic for a couple of hours to get to it and then fighting for a car space afterwards. There's a lot less people typically at those events too, which is brilliant.
Yeah, there's not as many crowds around as well. And we can kind of fit a couple of events in a day or something because...
Exactly. You're not just doing one and then hitting the road and trying to make it back before that traffic jam grinds you to a halt.
Yeah.
So it's a much closer-knit community than we ever had back in Sydney as well. We know pretty much everybody who lives in this street with us. And our boys can walk to school or bike if they want to. It's one of those places where, if you needed to put your garbage out, someone will be out and they'll do it for you.
Yes, and they'll put the bin back in for
Totally.
you. But also watch out for the boys if they're wandering home looking lost or something. People will know who they are and will talk to them and walk them home if needed.
Exactly. Like in the weekends and stuff, we didn't have to pack up and travel for a couple of hours to go and see friends and stuff. Literally can just walk around the corner.
Yeah. Which does make the socialising just that much more fun.
Totally. In fact, one would argue our kids have almost turned into free-range kids.
Yes.
They just disappear for a couple of hours out in the street and, you look out the window and you can't see them. They're probably going to be in someone else's house nearby and they'll be brought back in an hour or two.
Or you can text the mum and she sends them back, because you know them all. It is very different than living in the city. So weighing up all those pros and cons, are we happy that we made the call that we made back in 2017?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, no, definitely. We definitely are, because for us, the pros of the just better lifestyle means that we're able to be a more cohesive family.
And the closer-knit community is brilliant as well.
It is a really good part of it.
I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, so we're able to actually be leaders in our community on the school board and, cricket coaching, soccer coaching.
Yep.
And we've got the time and capacity to do that, to be part of our children's lives and part of our community's lives.
Yeah, I think that's one really key thing, is that the time that we've got back from doing the move as well has allowed us to do just so much extra inside the community.
So for us, the pros have well and truly outweighed the cons. And we would love to hear what your pros and cons are if you're considering it, or what your experience is if you've done a sea change or a tree change recently. So put it in the comments for us below.